Hello and welcome to this week's episode of WCS GameDay. I'm your co-host Jeremy Qualls, and with me is co-host Tate Mathews. Please make sure you follow us on Twitter. My Twitter handle is WCSCOJQ and at Tate Mathews. We're happy to be here with you today. We're going to start off this week talking about the 11 AAA District Golf Tournament hosted at Greystone and Dixon. Those guys start off today. They kicked off at 8 o'clock this morning, teed off at 8 o'clock this morning rather. And I know for a fact that our district is strong, and the golfers that are going to come out of there are going to be tough to handle come state time.
Yep, without a doubt. And, kind of like in volleyball, we'll have a lot to talk about after this week, but I can tell you this. If they're going to upset Brentwood in this tournament, they better bring their A game because, as usual, really, really good golf team for the Bruins over off Murray Lane.
Yes, absolutely. And they're playing at a Bob Walcott course over there in Dixon at Greystone, which is a fantastic, tough track. And, those guys are used to playing those difficult tracks, and I think it helps us down the line as when we get into regional competition, state competition, the courses that we play here help us get ready for that competition. And moving on, we're going to talk real quick, and we'll update you on those scores when we come back next week on moving on to volleyball. We had a big tournament this past weekend here in the county, the Franklin High School Sonic Blast Tournament, which hosted teams such as Murfreesboro, Riverdale, Independence, Lipscomb, Maryville, Northeast, Macon County, Franklin Classical, and Overton, as well as Ravenwood. And there was some really stiff competition in this. Franklin rolls to an 8-0 tournament this weekend and ends up winning the Sonic Blast tournament.
Yeah, big win for them. It was their tournament, and they had a great week, went 10-1 the whole week. Their only loss was to another Williamson County team, Ravenwood. So Coach Holzer's got the Lady Rebels. Looks like that program's on the climb.
And it's kind of funny because it coincides with our football matchups right now. Ravenwood, Centennial, Brentwood, and Franklin are the top four kind of in the district, and that's kind of what we see in football. So it'll be interesting to see there how that transpires going into the second week of October is when that district tournament starts. Director Cup points on the line. I know those coaches know that's a new thing going on there. I know they're really looking to get those points from the golf and from the volleyball as we go through the seasons. So that brings us to this week in football. What a week it was. Yeah. Man, we had some good games. We're going to start off with the Brentwood game. Brentwood and Hendersonville, and we knew going in that they had an uphill battle. Hendersonville coming in 4-0, and it just kind of was a lopsided win for them, 33-54. What do you know about that game?
What we thought was going to happen, unfortunately, Hendersonville is really, really good. Defending 6A state runner-ups, very good offense. This will now be their, fourth game in a row of over 45 points. So 54-33, bright spot for the Bruins. Didn't give up, and I know we keep talking about that, but they fought the whole game. John Robertson with over 200 all-purpose yards. So again, you look at that and you think, man, that's hard to see that we took some good things out of that, but they did. Again, Brentwood, what they got to keep working on every week is getting themselves better, and it looks like they did that.
And I still think that you probably agree with me. We talked about off air. The jury's still out on Brentwood. We really do not know how good they are because of the level of competition they've played up in this point. I think when they get into deeper into interleague play that we're going to see Brentwood's not a pushover.
No.
I mean, you're playing when you play three of the top state teams, actually four if you want to add CPA in there, in the first 4 or 5 games, we really don't know how good Brentwood is. I really think that when they get into interleague play that they're going to fare a little bit better than what they're showing so far.
Well, remember what you just said. Centennial's up there as one of the favorites. They're undefeated in our district, and it came down to a missed 2-point conversion or they would have beaten Centennial. So you're right. Don't be surprised if they don't win some of these district games later on in the year.
With that being said, some of the foes we have to look forward to down the road, deeper into state playoff times, man, how tough is Hendersonville going to be? How tough is Blackman going to be? How tough is Oakland going to be? We have some stiff competition as well outside of our own league.
Well, and CPA was they were the 3A runner-up last year, undefeated, got beat by an Alcoa team, which everybody knows. I mean, Alcoa can go anywhere, anytime, play anybody. So, again, we talked about it the last 2 weeks. We'll say it one more time. Toughest schedule in the state.
Toughest schedule in the state. That moves us on to the next game of the night, which you alluded to, Centennial. Man, Coach Rector's got things rolling. They come in undefeated. They're playing a Clarksville team who've already had a taste of WCS earlier. And, man, we gave them another taste, another dose of something they probably didn't like. We shut them out Centennial 45-0 over Clarksville.
Yep. That's what he expected to do. I don't know if he expected 45-0, but they played very, very well. Again, Deion Sanders over 100 yards, but not as many carries. So he didn't have to. Anytime Deion gets over 100 yards and he can do it under 20 carries, the Cougars played really well. So quarterbacks didn't turn the ball over. Defense kept him out of the end zone. That's what he expected. He wasn't real happy after that Brentwood game. He was happy with the win, but there were some things he thought they could have done better. It looks like they did that against a team they should have this week.
And I'm assuming that they're back full force, injury free at this point in time. And I tell you what, Centennial may be a force to be reckoned with up here in the four horsemen that we're talking about. Those four top teams are something to be. It's going to be a lot of fun to see how this plays out. Centennial being one of those four. They move on to 4-0, moves to the next game, which is Franklin. Franklin had their first true test of the year against a really good ball club out of McGavock. McGavock came in undefeated as well as at 3-0, as well as Franklin came in at 2-0, and lost a heartbreaker, 28-31, came from behind to get that thing up to where it needed to be. What happened?
One, McGavock's really good, which we talked about that. That's the most speed that they've seen all year long, maybe we'll see all year long. I tell you, that 31-28, you see that, and Franklin came down to a fourth down, about a 40-yarder, went for it on downs, turnover on downs. That ended the comeback. Something that the box score in the newspaper doesn't show you about that score, Franklin was without their starting place kicker and also punter. And as we know, he's a pretty good one.
That completely changes the whole dynamic of the game. We're talking about field position. We're talking about actually getting some points on there on those on fourth and longs, possibly in field goal range. So that completely changes the dynamic of the game.
Well, they had to go for it on fourth down when they would have kicked it, and it would have been a 40-yarder from the spot. That's well within his range. That sends it to overtime. Who knows what happens? They couldn't. He can kick it out. He can kick it in the end zone. They couldn't do that. They had to kick it high, so that they were getting better field position instead of starting on the 20 on the kickoffs. Averages over 40 yards on punt. It completely changed the dynamic of the game. Well, and still had a chance to come back and win it.
Well, looking at the stats here, Joe Critchlow, who we talk about every week, what a fantastic quarterback he is. He actually throws his first pick of the season. However, he had 3 touchdowns to go with that one pick, and 21 of 33 for 220 yards. That's a pretty good game.
Oh yeah, and showed off his running skills. I don't think he's ever going to be mistaken as an option quarterback, but showed off that he could rush the ball too. That's a threat there too. So again, we've talked about him since the beginning. He's probably the class of the quarterbacks in this league, and we got some really, really good ones. But again, big game for him. And I tell you, on the defensive side, a guy that is really playing really well is a young man by the name of Josh Philby. He's the defending or the reigning lineman of the year in 11 AAA, 10 stops. He's averaging about 10 stops a game. He is a heck of a player.
Well, as you see here, he had receiving stats to 7 different receivers for the night, 3 separate touchdowns by 3 separate people. So it looks to me like Joe has good protection, one, and he's looking around the field, getting his best options, and right now we're just spreading the wealth. And that's going to be a big success for them as far as the year goes on. As people start preparing for 1 or 2 receivers, you're throwing to 7 different a night, so that's pretty tough to get ready. McGavock took an early lead. They come out of the gates early at 14-0 and went into halftime with a 21-7 lead. And at that time, I'm thinking, man, something's going on here with Franklin. They're not clicking tonight. And then the comeback started at the end of the third quarter. It's 28-14. And then they scored there at the end to make it. They scored 2 final touchdowns late to get it to 31-28 and having a chance to go for the win. And Franklin hung in there. I would never count out Franklin, even though that was a good quality opponent for them. But it'll be interesting to see how they do when we get into the league play.
That's right. McGavock's 4-0. They're not 4-0. They're 4-0 for a reason.
Right.
So again, had a chance. And you know what? Sometimes you're better off losing one of these games early and maybe a little wake-up call for these young men. And you're better off doing that earlier in the year than you are later in the year.
Moving on to my dark horse of the year. Don't sleep on these guys. The Indy Nation versus Beach. Indy went in undefeated 3-0. Beach is coming in. They're struggling. Like you mentioned, that's where Jalen Hurd played. They had a good season last year, even though Jalen Hurd left. Beach is still a pretty good team. But Indy, 49-7.
Well, and here's what's misleading about that. Not misleading. 49-7, Beach. Now remember, they've won 2 of the last 5 5A state championships. This is a quality program. They were up 49-0 in the fourth quarter. They've got their second, third teamers in. They're going in from the 1. Their fourth team tailback's going in from the 1, coughs it up, and Beach picks it up on the 1, returns it 99 yards for a touchdown. It would have been 49-0 or 56-0. Here's what's amazing to me about that. I know Beach can play offense. Independence, they're putting up a lot of points. We know about their offense. They must be really good on defense.
Well, they are, but they're offensive, man. They've got weapons. Well, we just talked about Franklin having 7. They had 8 receivers in this game that had more than 2 catches. 8. And then you had 4 separate people catch touchdowns off that. And, we talked about their rushing attack, their 2-headed monster that they have back there in the backfield, but now they're starting to spread it out. And I think if Indy ever gets rolling throwing the ball, you're in trouble.
Well, and here's the scary thing. Andrew Bunch has been playing very efficient at quarterback in the passing game. He was 14 for 21, 247 yards, 3 touchdowns in this game. And now he's rushing for 9 attempts at 85 yards and 2 touchdowns, and you still got Dom Childress and them back there. That's pretty scary for an opposing defense.
And I still think on the year they have the best quality win so far with that win over Marshall County and at Marshall County. So that just, man, I'm telling you, don't sleep on Indy Nation. Yeah. Moving on, going to the homecoming game of WCS, which was Ravenwood and Laverne. Ravenwood wins big over Laverne, 35-0. That brings us to our play of the week, which was a pick 6 from Austin Percy.
Nice pocket. Yeah, he's got a man with a great job.
And if he can get a block, he can take this.
Oh, man. Number 6, Austin Percy, is going to take it all the way back. That ball hung up in the air, and Percy read it like a book.
Well, that could be our play of the week, Matt.
Man, alive at 4:38. That's a game changer.
Austin Percy, normally a tremendous receiver, getting a chance on defense.
Yeah, great pocket by that offensive line. But that ball's going to hang up. You're going to see it just float there. And it's going to allow Percy, who is already rolling towards the sideline, to come sneak right in front of it and make one heck of a grab. And then he's going to go streaking down the sideline, and you see his defenders down there, the fellow defensive players, just making some nice blocks. Does a great job of cutting it right back in behind him. And nobody's going to catch him. One of the bad things there, when you're on the offense and you throw an interception in that situation, 5 of your guys ain't running anybody down.
You got to like that, a little defensive tackle right there. Who is that? 54. Yeah, check that. Give him some credit.
Wow, Tate, what an athletic play that was. Percy comes up, reads the offense perfect. They throw the pass, untouched, pick 6 for Ravenwood.
We've talked about him earlier. He's kind of my sleeper of the year. Everybody knows about Van Jefferson. Austin Percy is a big-time player on receiver. Now look at him back there in the secondary. Makes the break on the ball, takes it all the way to the house. That is what a great two-way player he is. Again, Ravenwood, as good as they are on offense, that just shows you right there they're pretty dang good on defense too.
Well, that's all we've heard up to this point. Ravenwood's offense and Van Jefferson, and they're putting double coverage on Van, so that's leaving all the other guys open. But what I saw most, 2 things that stuck out to me that game, and I went to that game. What a great culture and climate they have out there. I went to their homecoming festivities. They had a parade. 2,000 students rocking the gym at the pep rally. Coach Hester getting up and getting them pumped. So it was a great atmosphere that night. But 2 things that stuck out to me was their quarterback. Their quarterback moves and is mobile as can be and has a great arm. I mean, he really does, and made some great reads and went to tuck it and run, and that really spread their defense pretty thin. Number 2 was how hard they played on defense. I saw some really, really good, strong hits, covering the ball well. They looked really good on defense is what I saw. But Van Jefferson has several receptions there, has a touchdown pass, really to put the game away right before halftime, and then he walked out as a homecoming court and won homecoming king. So Ravenwood moves to 3-0. That's going to be a tough group to beat.
Oh, yeah. Playing really good on defense. You talked about the offense, the passing game with Austin Percy and Van Jefferson. And what's neat about that is you look at every game, Seth Rowland has been over 100 yards. 19 carries for 123 yards, 2 touchdowns in that one, long for the 45. What that tells you is they're spreading out. You have to honor that passing game, and it's opening up those running lanes, and the Rowland brothers are taking advantage of it.
And they're looking at 3 major right now receivers. You have Austin Percy, who had the pick 6. He had 7 catches for 83 yards. And then you have, of course, Austin Burke, 2 catches, 24 yards. Then you have Van Jefferson that had 7 catches, 57 yards with a touchdown. So my question is to defense, who you covering?
Well, you look at that Clarksville game, they keep trying to take away the pass, and look what's happening on the run. You better stop the run first.
And that's why the quarterback had such a good night, because that would spread him so thin, and then boom, he chose his times to go. And Ravenwood moving to 3-0 brings us to our next game, which is Fairview versus Creekwood, which is an inside of the district game for those guys. Fairview coming in at 2-1. Creekwood also coming in, or Creekwood was coming in at 1-2. Fairview loses a heartbreaker, 38-25 at Creekwood.
Tough loss. The really tough thing to swallow about that, they were up 21-7, almost going into half. Creekwood scores a touchdown at the halftime. Man, if they keep with 4 seconds left, if they go into halftime up 21-7, I think that comeback would have been a lot harder for Creekwood. Yep,
that moves Fairview to 2-2 on the season. And last game of the night for us was Summit playing West Creek, Old Sparty. Summit came up just a little bit short, 17-7 to West Creek. I know the Summit Spartan Nation is trying to hang in there and be faithful to those guys. What do you know about that game?
They were in it. They had a chance. Gave up an interception for a touchdown, returned for a touchdown. So there's 7 of their 17, and then they had a turnover going in when they could have cut it to 17-14 late. So had a chance to keep it close, maybe even go in and get another possession and tie it. So that means they fought the whole game. They're getting better, man. It's going to be a process.
It's a long process. Well, stay with us. That was this week's games, and we're going to come back with you next time with a recap of this week's games, and also we're having our predictions, so don't miss it. We'll be right back.
What should I make my password? Oh, I know. I'll make my password password. Passwords should be unique, private, non-personal, and secure. Use more than one word. Use different character classes, use symbols and numbers, and use multiple passwords for different sites. And always remember, never to share your passwords.
Welcome back to WCS GameDay. This is our favorite part of the show. We're going to talk about this week's matchups on Friday night, and then we're going to make our predictions. Right now, as it sits, I'm 2-4. Tate wore me out last week. He's at 4-2 on predictions, so we're going to continue that on. That's why we play the game, that's right. Tate, so don't be getting overconfident on me.
Long season.
This week's matchups, Brentwood coming in at 0-4, 0-1 in the district, playing at Dixon, who is 1-3, 0-1 in the district. And Dixon's coming in on a 13-34 loss against number 22 in the state, Houston, out of Memphis. What do you think?
I think Brentwood gets the first win of the season. I think this is they're fighting. They're getting better. They've been in some really tough games. I think they're better than Dixon. They'll travel down there, and they'll take care of business. And I think this is going to be something very positive for the Bruins this week.
Well, it's like we've been talking the whole time. The jury is still out, and I really think this will tell us the telltale sign right here. This week, if Brentwood goes down to Dixon with all these tough losses, if they can be mentally prepared and say, you know what, we're ready to get into interleague play. We've played this tough schedule for a reason, to get us better. I'm very interested to see how this game goes. If Brentwood comes out and really blows the doors off Dixon, you never know what's going to happen in interleague play.
That's right.
With the rest of the group. So I see this game as being very interesting, and I look forward to seeing how Brentwood does against Dixon. Moving on, Centennial versus Summit. Centennial having a big win over Clarksville. Centennial coming in, as we know, as part of the Four Horsemen, as we're calling them right now. They're 4-0, 1-0 in the district. Summit been struggling, 0-4, 0-1 in the district. Big win, 45-0 over Clarksville. And West Creek, Summit versus West Creek coming up a little short, 7-17. What can we see on this game? You want to be competitive. You want to stay in the game, and you want to actually think that you can win. At this point in time in the season, you haven't had a win things have not exactly gone like you wanted them planned to as your first year as a head coach there. Team's young, but you know you're up against a tall task against Brian Rector and Centennial.
Well, we talked about it. Summit runs that wing T offense. There's two things they have to do. They have to get some first downs, and they cannot turn the ball over. You can't turn the ball over in the wing T, especially on a team that's explosive like Centennial. So what they have to do is they have to keep Centennial's offense off the field. That limits the touches Deion Sanders has. That limits the receivers, and that they have the explosive receivers in the passing game. So Centennial's getting a little bit healthier. And again, playing really well, but that's how they can be successful. They have to get some first downs, and they cannot turn the ball over.
So let's put this in basketball terms for us basketball people. So we're playing a team that scores 95 points a game, and we're averaging around 40. So I'm going to go into the old stall offense, if you will.
Right.
Try to your best offense, as long as you have the ball, is your best defense. So as long as they don't have the ball, they can't score. That's the old adage. So the wing T, that is great time management offense. Only if you're getting first downs.
That's right. Have to get
so
first
it really comes down to the point if they can chip away, get first down after first down after first down. Even if they don't score, run that clock down so low that maybe Centennial doesn't have a lot of opportunities to score.
Don't snap the ball till it says 2 on the 40 on the game play clock.
Absolutely. Centennial versus Summit. That's also this Friday night. That will be at Summit. Franklin at Shelbyville. That'll be playing outside of our league, of course. Franklin going in 2-1, overall record of 2-1, 1-0 in the district. Shelbyville's 2-1 as well. Had a 39-35 win over Tullahoma. I know that Shelbyville got throttled by Marshall County in the first game of the season, so that we can use that as our measuring stick right now in some form or fashion. We know how good Marshall County is. And with that being said, I think that Franklin's going to have the upper hand here at Shelbyville.
Shelbyville is a lot like McGavock. They run a spread offense like McGavock. They're very athletic, but they're not as athletic as McGavock. So actually, 2 weeks in a row, they're kind of looking at the same offense. Again, Franklin had a chance against McGavock. I think they'll come back and have a really good week of practice this week. I would say Shelbyville's in trouble. Again, a lot like McGavock, but not as athletic. Franklin will be ready for this game.
And the 39-35 score to me over Tullahoma kind of tells me a little bit about them. I know that Tullahoma, they have their, that district and region down there, probably not as athletic as Williamson County, I would say, or definitely not as athletic like you alluded to on the metro scene. So that tells me right there that I believe that Franklin ought to have the upper hand against Shelbyville. Fairview 2-2, 1-2 in their district versus Montgomery Central, who is 1-3, 0-2. They coming in on a 13-14 loss to Hickman County, that being Montgomery Central, and also Fairview coming in off a loss to Creekwood. What do you see in this game?
Fairview, Fairview again had a chance to put Creekwood away, and for a couple of different reasons they didn't. But again, I think they're better than Montgomery Central. They're going to be a little bit upset about what happened last Friday night. Montgomery Central's already lost to Camden. We know Fairview's beaten Camden. I think Hunter Zimmerman again. I didn't get to talk to him about it a little bit earlier, but if you have a chance to go see Fairview, go watch him play. He's as exciting a player as we've got in the mid-state, playing there at quarterback for the Yellow Jackets. So I think Fairview plays well this Friday night. And
that's kind of a big game for them at this point in time. It gets them back to 500 inside their district with games of Hickman County left and, of course, CPA and some other folks coming down the pipe there for them. Moving on, speaking of CPA, we're talking about Page now. Page at number 20 in the state CPA right now, and I'm not sure number 20 is accurate for this group. Page, once again, 2-1, 0-1 in the district coming in at CPA, who is undefeated. We're already tested against one of the WCS teams against Brentwood, first game of the year. Page coming off a pretty big loss against Marshall County, and CPA traveling to Maplewood, winning 35-6. So what do you think?
It's going to be really tough for Page. We talked about it, that Page-Marshall County game, though. 24-point loss for the Patriots, but they had a chance, inside they left a lot of points on the board.
Sure.
So CPA, I'm with you. They're better than number 20. I saw them play Giles County, and they could have scored 100 on Giles County. So Page is going to have to play near perfect ball, but that's like you said earlier. That's why they play the game.
Let's talk about CPA a little bit. What separates them on that particular level? What separates them from everybody else?
Well, obviously they have really good players, and I think Ingo Martin's probably one of the He's one of the superstar coaches on the right, young coaches. I think he's
Right.
going to be a really, really good one for a long time. But, they've got really good players. They've got a system. One of the advantages I think they have is they can go out and hire a staff. He's got a great staff. But they line up, they spread it out. It's funny, they're another one of those teams. They spread it out to run the ball at you. Very physical. Jimmy Hockaday, the former Brentwood Academy great here back in the 80s. His son, Jay Hockaday, is the tailback, and he's a two-way stud. He plays linebacker and running back for him, and he can play for anybody. So, it's like you being the basketball coach. I mean, it's not about the X's and O's. It's about the Jimmys and Joes, right?
That's right, whoever you put out there.
It's not the shoes, it's who's in the shoes.
That's correct. And now that brings us to the game of the week. The best game on schedule up until this point, up until the date. The big rivalry between Indy and Ravenwood. Both of them coming in undefeated. Independence being 1-0 in the district. Ravenwood, this will be their first district game. And us talking about this four horseman attack, these games, even though it's a little earlier than we would like, we'd love to see this at the end.
Right.
Some implications for the tournament, for the championship are on the line right here. 49-7 at Beach, 35-0 at Laverne. We're high scoring, so something's got to give. What's going to give?
The points. It's going to be a 28-21 type game. I don't think neither one of them are going to score more than 35, 40 points in this game. The big plays that will be limited, you're going to have to earn it because they're both, like we said earlier, they're both playing really good on defense. I think you're right. It's going to be a great game. Two really good coaches, two great fan bases we talked about. The Indy Nation and Ravenwoods, I don't know what they call them, but they'll all be there in black. You better get there early if you want a good seat because this game, if the weather is good, will be packed.
Yes, get there early, tailgate, and see who wins the game of the week, Independence versus Ravenwood. It's prediction time. I'm behind two games to you. I'm 2-4, 4-2 on the week. Well, this is a tough one for us this week. We got some tough games to call. So here we go. Prediction time. Brentwood versus Dixon.
Brentwood gets the first win of the season. The Bruins win.
I agree. Brentwood Bruins roll. They get they're showing that tough schedule has made them better. Roll over Dixon. Centennial versus Summit.
Centennial. Too much firepower.
I agree. They're going to spread the field out on them. The wing tee will get you good low first quarter, and then it breaks free. And then I'm going to predict Centennial over Summit as well. Franklin at Shelbyville.
Franklin bounces back. They get a big win over Shelbyville.
I agree, too. Go Rebel Nation there. They're going to travel well to Shelbyville to get that win. Fairview versus Montgomery Central.
Yellow Jackets.
Jackets will sting as well. Page at CPA.
I hate to say it because I really like what they're doing at Page and Coach Bone. Got Jack Daniels back out there running the offense, but CPA is a top 10 team in the state, in my opinion.
Ooh, this is a tough one for me. Gut's telling me Page could pull off the ultimate upset, but I just think they have too much manpower, too much size and ability. I'm going to pick CPA in this one. As much as it hurts me to do so,
Me too.
I'm picking CPA. And to our game of the week, the biggest, the toughest one, Indy Nation versus the Raptors of Ravenwood. Who you have?
I'm going to go with the Raptors, and here's why. This is a pick 'em in my book. Ravenwood is the defending 11 AAA champions. Until somebody beats them, I'm going with the Raptors.
Man, this is a tough one. I've called Indy all year long to be the dark horse in the group. But in this game, I've seen Ravenwood's defense last week. I'm going to give the edge so ever slightly. It's coming down to a coin toss at the very end in triple overtime. Ravenwood's going to squeeze out a win, but that doesn't knock Indy Nation down because Indy Nation's going to get back up the next week and they're going to roll. And this is not over by any stretch of the imagination. So I'm going to go Ravenwood as well. We didn't differ in anything. So we look forward to seeing how these play out. Thank you for joining us. And remember, Williamson County, to always be nice. Williamson County Athletics. We'll see you next time on WCS Game Day. I'm Jeremy Qualls. This is Tate Mathews. See you next time.